Update 2. Hi Reddit. I didn't think I'd be back with another update so soon, but life has thrown yet another curveball at me. Things have taken a dramatic and unexpected turn, and now I'm left trying to figure out what to do next. I really need advice on how to move forward. Fast forward a few weeks ago. Laura gave birth to her baby girl. At first, I tried not to pay attention. Laura's life and her baby weren't my concern. But then I got a call from Megan, my ex-sister-in-law, who I hadn't heard from since she told me to set James free. Her tone was different this time. She sounded frantic, almost panicked. She blurted out, "I think you need to know what's going on with James and Laura." I sighed, not wanting to get dragged into more drama. "Why would I care, Megan?" I asked. She hesitated before saying, "Because the baby. It doesn't look like James. It looks exactly like Ryan." Ryan, the guy Laura had left James for years ago. The guy she claimed to have made a mistake choosing over James. My stomach dropped as Megan continued. James did a DNA test to confirm, and, well, it's not his. I was shocked that Megan is now calling me to gossip about her friend, who she wanted to be with my husband so much. So I said, "Megan, I really don't care whose baby it is. Please don't call me again." The very next day, James showed up at my door. I hadn't seen him in months, and the sight of him standing there, looking broken and desperate, stirred a whirlwind of emotions in me. He got down on his knees, literally, and begged for my forgiveness. "I was so stupid," he said, tears streaming down his face. "I let Laura manipulate me. I thought she was the love of my life, but I was wrong. She lied to me, she used me, and I ruined everything with you and our son because of her. Please, give me another chance." I stood there in shock, holding my son in my arms, trying to process everything. He continued, "I love you. I have always loved you. I let my past cloud my judgment, and I hurt you in ways I can never take back. But I want to fix this. I want to be here for you and our boy. I want to be a family." His words stirred something in me. I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel anything for him still. We'd built a life together before everything fell apart, and the thought of giving my son a father tugged at my heart. But then the memories of his betrayal came flooding back. The lies, the emotional abandonment, the way he chose Laura over me during one of the most vulnerable times of my life. On one hand, I want my son to have a father. I want him to grow up knowing that his dad is there for him, loving him and supporting him. I know how important it is for children to have both parents involved, and James is saying all the right things now. But on the other hand, how do I trust him again? He shattered my heart into pieces when he chose Laura, and he only came crawling back after she proved to be lying to him. Would I just be a second choice? Would he truly be committed to me and our family? Or would he leave again the moment things got tough? And then there's the pain of what he put me through during pregnancy and childbirth. He wasn't there for me when I needed him the most. He let me go through some of the hardest moments of my life alone because he was too busy chasing a fantasy. James has been relentless in his apologies. He's been texting and calling constantly, showing up with gifts for the baby, and even talking about how he wants to go to therapy to work on himself and rebuild my trust. He says he's willing to do whatever it takes to prove that he's serious about being a good husband and father. He said Laura forbade him to go see me and our son, threatening to leave him and move out to another state so he would not be able to see their child. So he was scared and obeyed her demands. Right now, I feel stuck. I've worked so hard to start healing and build a life as a single mom. But the thought of giving James another chance is tempting. Not because I need him. I know I'm strong enough to do this on my own. But because I want what's best for my son. Reddit, I need your advice. Should I even consider taking James back? Or is it time to close this chapter for good? How do I balance what's best for my son with protecting my own heart? I'm so conflicted, and I don't know what to do. Help me, please. Do not take him back. James didn't just make a mistake. He made a series of conscious choices to betray you. He let Laura back into his life, lied to you for months, and abandoned you during one of the most vulnerable times of your life. Now that Laura's out of the picture, he's running back because he has no other option. Don't let him treat you like a backup plan. You and your son deserve someone who chooses you every single day, not someone who only comes around when their fantasy falls apart. The only reason James is groveling is because Laura played him for a fool. If her child had been his, would he have come back to you? Probably not. He abandoned you when you were carrying his child and let you go through so much pain alone. That's not someone you can trust to be there when times get hard. You're already doing an amazing job as a single mom, and your son will thrive with a strong, independent mom who put herself and her baby first. Don't let James drag you down again. Maybe consider giving him another chance. I get why you're hesitant, but people can change if they're truly remorseful. It sounds like James is willing to put in the work to rebuild your trust and be there for your son. Therapy could help you to work through the betrayal and see if there's a path forward. Having both parents in your son's life could be a positive thing, as long as James proves that he's serious about being a better husband and father. Just make sure he earns his place back in your life. Don't just let him off the hook easily. Update 3. Hi Reddit. I wanted to give you another update. And I know this might be a controversial decision, but I've decided to give James another chance. After weeks of soul-searching, countless sleepless nights, and advice from friends and family, I realized that part of me still loves James. We had a life together before everything fell apart, and I wanted to see if it was possible to rebuild that for the sake of our son. James has been relentless in proving his commitment. He started therapy on his own and has invited me to join him for couple sessions. He's taken full responsibility for his actions and hasn't tried to justify his behavior or blame anyone else. He's been showing up constantly, bringing diapers, helping with late-night feedings, and even cooking and cleaning when he visits. Most importantly, he's been trying to rebuild a relationship with our son. Watching him hold our baby and seeing how much love he has for him softened my heart. I know I could raise my son on my own, but I also believe that having two loving parents involved is ideal, as long as those parents can provide a healthy and stable environment. That said, I'm not letting James waltz back into our lives as if nothing happened. I've made it clear that this is a trial period. I told him I need time to rebuild my trust, and that if he ever lies to me or puts me in second place again, it's over for good. He's agreed to my terms and has been incredibly patient and understanding. We've also agreed to keep Laura completely out of our lives. James has cut off all contact with her, and Megan has been told in no uncertain terms to stay out of our relationship. If anyone crosses that boundary, they're out of our lives, no questions asked. I won't pretend this decision was easy, and I know there are no guarantees that things will work out. Part of me is still scared of being hurt again, but I also want to give my son the chance to have both parents in his life. James has a lot to prove, and I'm taking things one day at a time. If it doesn't work out, I know I'm strong enough to walk away. But for now, I'm cautiously hopeful. Maybe, just maybe, we can build something stronger from the ashes of everything that's happened. Thank you to everyone who has supported me through this journey. Your advice and kindness have meant the world to me. I'll keep you posted on how things go. I, 28 female, met my now fiancé Joseph, 29 male, 3 years ago. He's the only child of a wealthy marriage and is also bi. Both things are important later. My brother Jason, 26 male, is the golden child of the family. He never does anything wrong, and even when both my parents favor him more than me and my sisters, my dad is more prone to excuse his behavior because he always wanted a boy. 10 years ago, my brother came out to us, and since then, he has used his sexuality to manipulate people to always get what he wants. Because if he doesn't, then you're a homophobic a-hole who discriminates him. Even when most things doesn't have to do anything with that. For example, our oldest sister, 34 female, got her first car when my brother was 22, and he made her give it to him after pressuring her for months and getting my dad involved. Now my sister is paying for a car she doesn't even own. When I first introduced them to Joseph, Jason jumped directly at him, flirting and playing, just because Joe's rich. My brother has been trying for years to make my boyfriend cheat, and has never admitted it. Things got worse when he found out about his sexuality, and has been more open with his advances. I tried to go low contact or no contact with him for a while, but my dad always forces us to be together, and has been literally impossible. Jason's totally obsessed with Joe to the point my boyfriend only sees my family at big events, like Christmas or New Year's, because Jason is all over him all the time. A few months ago, Joe proposed to me, and when I told my family, alone by the way, Jason began to cry and admitted in front of my parents and sister that he was very much in love with Joseph, that it wasn't fair that I married him, and deep down, he knew Joe felt the same. Both my parents hugged him and tried to comfort him. Jason said that I had to give the ring to him and finally get out of their way and let them be happy. That he was the one who deserved the big life, and I was a B for making Joe settle for a woman and dismissing his sexuality. I said he was out of his mind and got out of my house running after he started to yell. I told Joseph everything, and we both agreed to not invite him to the wedding because that was the last straw. When I told my parents, they said it wasn't fair that I didn't invite him because I was already marrying the man he loved, and excluding him only proved the fact that I don't like him because he's gay. I said I don't hate my brother, but that he was crazy and I didn't want him there ruining the party. It was my day, not his. They called me an a-hole and told me that they aren't coming too, unless I invite him personally and give him a big role in my wedding. Am I the a-hole for not inviting him? My brother has been excluded from family parties for years. I love my brother, I really do. I don't want him to feel excluded, but he gave me no choice. We were going to invite him until he demanded I left Joe just so they could be happy. Not the a-hole. Think of it this way. You're not excluding your brother. You're averting a Category 5 disaster at your wedding. Your parents have their own choices to make, and this is a really good opportunity for you to take note of who they really are. This is your life, and you decide who has access to your special moments. Not the a-hole, but you and your sisters need spines. Yes, you are being pressured to cater to your brother and parents' whims, but you are not forced. Set boundaries. Don't run out on your own house because someone is yelling at you. I get it. That pressure feels insurmountable. You feel forced to do what they say. But based on what you've told us, you have options you can take to set some basic boundaries. Your sister needs to get her car back. Stand firm in not letting your brother come to your wedding. Get security if you need to. Remember that you're not a kid and no longer dependent on doing what your parents say in order to survive. You can disagree with them and your brother and be okay. You can even not communicate with them or see them and be okay. Protect yourself and your fiancé from this toxicity. My husband's parents divorced when he was 3 because his mom was pregnant from an affair. Growing up, my husband always had a lot more than his sisters because his dad was rich. His mother was always resentful of her too, blaming her for the breakdown of her marriage and losing the lifestyle my father-in-law gave her. Because of this, my husband is very protective of his sister and is constantly going out of his way to help her. So when lockdown hit and my sister-in-law lost her job and needed a place to stay, he suggested she move in with us, which she did. The problem is, she brought her roommate, best friend, with her. I've never liked her. When me and my husband were dating, she would openly flirt with him in front of me and make jokes that if they got married, her and my sister-in-law would finally be sisters. Whilst my husband shot her down, my sister-in-law used to encourage her. I told my husband I didn't want her in our house, but he asked me to just give her a chance because the world was going to crap and people needed to look out for one another. Well, she's constantly flirting with my husband and doesn't seem to be deterred by any boundaries he sets. She's begun walking around the house in her underwear whenever she knows he'll be home, and has asked him on more than one occasion if he'd rub sunscreen on her. Her and my sister-in-law both spend a lot of time trying to subtly convince me my husband is cheating too. Things reached a boiling point yesterday when I overheard her and sister-in-law talking about how she planned to trick him into sleeping with her, so he leaves me for her. They were making weird jokes about how the best friend would give my sister-in-law an allowance, and they'd live in luxury. They also made comments about how they couldn't believe my husband was married to that fat cow. I'm pregnant. I lost it. I called them disgusting and told them to get out of my house, to which my sister-in-law replied it was her brother's house. There was a lot of arguing until my husband came home and asked what happened. My sister-in-law claimed I was being insecure and ridiculous. I started crying, so my husband took me in the other room to ask what happened. After I explained, he was pissed and told them both to leave. I've been receiving a lot of aggressive texts from my mother-in-law's side of the family since, claiming I was cruel for making someone homeless in the middle of the pandemic, and that I was an insecure, controlling wife. They've also been telling my husband they're disappointed in him and that he's abandoned his family just like his father. My husband has retaliated by saying he will no longer pay for sister-in-law's grad school if she doesn't apologize and won't continue any financial support for the rest of the family unless the A stops. I feel really bad because I know how important family is to my husband, and I never wanted to put him in a position where he felt he had to choose between us. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole, and what the duck? He doesn't have to choose between you and his family. He has chosen, and that's you and your baby, and that's how it should be. The family you were born into is important, but the one you create is more important, because that was your choice, and not simply a game of chance. Your sister-in-law and her friend disrespected you in your own house, and you are completely in your right to leave them homeless. And that's what they deserve for being conniving little bees. Unless sister-in-law apologizes, you won't even need to acknowledge her existence anymore. That friend, on the other hand, should simply stay out of your and your husband's sight forever. If it were me, I would have pimp-slapped them before kicking them out. Darling, you didn't put him in a position to choose anything. His disgusting sister did that, and you did nothing wrong. His family probably only heard their version of the story, which I'm sure excludes any of what caused them to be removed in the first place. His family is welcome to move those toxic heifers into their own homes, but they have no right to criticize you for taking out the trash. Sister-in-law will never be sorry. She will tell dear husband what he wants to hear to get back into his wallet. She is old enough to know that what her and her trashy friend were planning is wrong. Not only does she not deserve a dime, she doesn't even deserve to be in either of your presents. I don't know why your husband tolerated her flirting with him to begin with, but if it ever happens again, he needs to tell her that there isn't a chance in hell of that happening. He will never be interested in her, and not to ever speak to him like that again. He sounds like a wonderful man, but you don't repeatedly let some floozy disrespect your wife, let alone move them into your home. I, 26, am the older brother of two sisters, Maya, 19, and Tia, 21. Our parents are complete a-holes, and Maya was their golden child, and honestly, a complete and utter spoiled bee. I get that's harsh to say about a kid, but she was. She got special treatment and would get away with anything. Our parents basically encouraged it despite basically leaving me to raise my sister so they could enjoy themselves. When I was 18, Tia was 13 and Maya was 11. I moved out. I stayed in contact with Tia, though I quickly gave up on trying to connect with Maya honestly. Our parents and Maya were absolutely horrible to Tia while I was gone. So when she was 18, Tia moved out and has stayed with me. I've made her get some therapy and done my best to be a good brother, and she's managed to be a lot happier since. Though after I basically didn't see our parents or Maya. However, last November, Maya randomly reached out to us. Tia just ignored it, but Maya is still my little sister, so I gave her a chance. In the time without us, she'd really missed us, and realized just how spoiled and cruel she was acting. Apparently, part of how she treated Tia was jealousy of how I was so close to her, but not Maya, though it obviously doesn't justify it. She had felt guilty for a while, but was scared to reach out in case we'd reject her. She felt really sincere and was really apologetic and seemed ashamed. I forgave her, and we started talking a lot. I became close to Maya really quickly. We get along great now, and we're actually pretty similar. Unfortunately, Tia refuses to forgive her, or even respond. I think she's being a little unfair, but I understand how she feels. From talking, I noticed that Maya seems to be having a hard time at home. She wasn't going to say anything, but ended up spilling when I pressed her. Our parents basically turned on her the moment we left. She wasn't the golden child anymore and had to suffer our parents' BS. Honestly, I'm ashamed to admit, but I never considered how our parents would treat her with us gone. With how horrible our parents are, I wanted to ask her to move in with me. Now, I want to make clear, I'm the renter. The rental agreement and bills and everything are all under my name. Tia contributes, but since she's still in university and my little sister, it's much less, and unofficial. But when I brought up the idea, Tia was furious. She rejected it. I tried to compromise and talk, but it went nowhere. So in the end, I told Tia I'm offering, and that she can be civil or I can help her move somewhere else. Maya accepted, coming to stay next week, and Tia is pissed and feels I'm choosing the golden child over her. But I'm not. Maya is suffering, and I want to help. She's a different person now. I understand Tia hurts, and I get her anger, but Maya also needs me right now. Tia is still angry, and our friends think it was an a-hole move, but Maya is her sister, and I don't think it's wrong to help her. I helped Tia back then too. Yes, the a-hole, but this is a really complicated situation, so let me explain my reasoning here. First and foremost, you did an amazing thing for Tia. Your parents are by far the biggest a-holes in this story, and you're right for wanting to get Maya out of that environment too. Kudos for helping your siblings escape A. But the thing is, Maya was part of that abuse for Tia. She helped make Tia's life hell. It's good that Maya shown sincere remorse and apologized to you, but your experience with her A is not the same as Tia's. Tia was hurt much more deeply by Maya, and she'll need a lot of time to process this and come to a place of forgiveness. But instead of giving her that time to process, what did you do? You gave Tia an ultimatum that you would be overriding her feelings, moving one of her primary A's into her home with a week's notice, and that if she didn't accept this, she would need to leave. I understand that Maya needs you, and that this is a tough situation no matter what, but you did this wrong. You trampled all over Tia, and made her feel like her safety and her feelings weren't important to you, and you're going to need to fix that. Edit. There are a few things I want to clear up first though. 1. Maya isn't lying about this. I know my parents, and Maya didn't even want to tell me about her issues at home. There is basically no chance it's all a lie, and she has tried and tried to talk and to apologize to Tia. Tia just won't let her. I know what she did in the past was horrible, but she isn't just manipulating me to hurt Tia. She genuinely hated how she was, and she wants to live somewhere safe and happy and loved. 2. I get it wasn't enough, but the timeline was admittedly poorly written. We started discussing it last month. She knew this decision for a couple of weeks. While I now see it was misguided and cruel, it wasn't just a week. 3. I don't know if it's appropriate to go in depth, but Maya's acts against Tia were verbal and psychological. It was disgusting, and I know how deeply it hurt Tia. Our parents were mostly really neglectful, aside from verbal, emotional A and rewarding Maya for being the golden child. Being perfect and cruel meant she would get their love, which neither of us did. So, my husband and I have an age gap. I'm 27 and he's 41. Yes, shock horror, cue the weird jokes and judgment. We've been together for 6 years and dating 7. We got married in January. There's no issues here, no grooming, no weird stuff. I have a master in psychology, so I like to think I'd know if there were issues. Our issue is that pretty much immediately after we got married, my in-laws started pressuring us to have kids. We tried to be really firm that we'd only have kids when I was ready. I want to focus on my career first, etc. My husband is semi-retired. He owns several rental homes debt-free, while I have a secure government job that offers excellent career growth, and I want to continue working for 10 years or so before having kids. At the end of lockdown, my in-laws came by for a barbecue and brought a mountain of baby stuff: crib, pram, clothes, toys, etc. We were horrified, and I sat them down and explained that I wanted to focus on my career for the next 10 years or so. My mother-in-law responded to say that wasn't a problem. Hubby works from home, and in-laws live 5 minutes away. I can just have the babies, and essentially in-laws and hubby would raise them while I worked. I said that we had considered that, but I was brought up by a stay-at-home mom while my dad worked full-time, and as a result, I never felt close to my dad because he was never there for any of my big milestones, and this led to resentment in my teen years, which I now regret as my parents died when I was 19, so I never got the chance to reconcile with him. I don't want this to happen with kids of mine, so I wanted to wait until I felt more comfortable working part-time before having children. My mother-in-law did the math and worked out that she'd be 75 and father-in-law 81 by the time we had kids, and stormed out, claiming that we're being unfair and that I'm her only chance on having grandbabies. Her daughter is married to a woman and they have adopted 2 kids together, so kind of an a-hole statement on her part. So, are we the a-holes here? Not the a-hole, but I would be a little concerned with waiting for a long period of time just because of the age gap. You said your husband is 41, which means already by the time your babies grow up, he will be 60. It might be a better idea to have a discussion with him about what he wants too, because while raising a kid is possible no matter the age, it might not be ideal. Your mother-in-law and father-in-law have no say in the matter though, and should respect your decision regardless. Not the a-hole, but if you're 27 and plan to work for 10 years until 37 before having kids, you may want to have a good look at geriatric pregnancy and infertility.